Rated #1 overall by each evaluator.
You, not on mine.
Oh.
Well, I think the only one that we had, I think that's supposed to be on today, then I got an email from Angie that said they were going, I guess.
Today, we were having one today. Oops.
I don't think there was one today.
I thought the new resident, somebody? Yeah, they're, well, they're gonna look at getting some other funding grants and stuff, but they want to do that. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, I was here all of it.
Maybe I'm mistaken.
I saw someplace.
All right, good evening, everybody. The time is 7 o'clock. I want to welcome you. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and open up the final meeting of the 2022-2024 City Council and call it to order. Again, the Opens Meeting Act is posted here on the wall next to my right. At this time, we'll have roll call, please.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Horner,
Here.
Hannum,
Here.
Lathrop,
Here.
Jensen,
Here?
Sukram,
Here.
Von Baron,
Here.
Vaughn,
Present.
8 council members are present, Mayor.
Okay, we'll now start with item 1 is to dispense with and approve the November 26, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Take a motion to approve the minutes. Councilman Vaughn.
So moved.
Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Please call the roll.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Hannum,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 2 is resolution 2024-297, approving the recommendation of the selection committee, adopting the findings of the selection committee, selecting Sampson Construction and authorizing staff to begin negotiations for construction manager at risk for the Fremont Police Headquarters and Fremont Dodge County 911 Center project. Staff report from David.
Thank you, Mayor Travis Shakot, City Attorney. I put this staff report together just so we comply with the construction manager at risk portion of this. As the council will recall, we approved that form of construction for the project and created a committee that would be reviewing proposals for the project. That committee did review 9 different proposals. They met in person to discuss them, and then they individually ranked each proposal. And those are included in the packet. And after all the evaluation was completed, the number 1 contractor as scored by the committee was Sampson Construction. So this resolution would, according to the statute, the council has to make its own findings and adopt the findings of the committee, approve the contractor as selected by the committee, and then that'll allow the city staff to begin negotiations for a contract that will eventually come back before the council once those terms are reached. So with that, I think we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this item? Okay. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Okay, are there any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen?
Let's see, if there's no additional comments, I'll make the motion to approve the resolution 2024-297.
Councilman Horner?
I'll second.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Hannum,
Yes.
the motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 3 is resolution 2024-276 regarding the return of city property by Councilman Member Dinkins.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I did communicate with Councilmember Dinkins, and all materials have been returned and we're in good shape there. And so I appreciate you approving the resolution.
I take a motion. Councilman Vaughn,
Regrettably so moved.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Vaughn.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
I just would like to take this opportunity to thank Councilman Dinkins. I appointed Councilman Dinkins almost 2 years ago, took the spot of the late Vern Gibson. And you have just been a very dedicated member of the council, very detailed, and a very good representative for your ward and for the city of Fremont. And you really represented Fremont to a very high standard, Tad. And I just want to thank you for your service to this council. And so in honor of your service, we do have a plaque for you. And so let's give a round of applause for coming. Okay, I would now then take a motion to adjourn, sign, die for the 2022-2024 city council. Councilman Vaughn,
Move to adjourn.
Councilman Sukram,
I'll second.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Dinkins,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Mr. Peterson, you can now take your seat.
Thanks, Ted.
That again will adjourn the 2022-2024 city council. Now I'll open up the regular city council meeting. Time is 7:06. Again, the Opens Meeting Act is posted on the wall next to my right. We'll have a roll call for the regular city council meeting.
Ganem,
Here.
Horner,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Vaughn,
Present.
Von Baron,
Here.
Sukram,
Here.
Jensen,
Here.
Lathrop.
Here.
8 council members are present, Mayor.
Okay, next we'll move on to mayor's comments, which we have a few items tonight. Item 1 is resolution 2024-277 regarding the qualification of Joey Spellerberg, Jeff Peterson, Dev Sukram, James Vaughn, and Sally Ganem as elected officials. Tyler?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is, record keeping. We received the, results from the county election commissioner, and so we, take this action to certify those results and, seat the new council members. And so I'd be happy to answer questions you may have.
Are there any questions for our clerk? Is there any comments from the public on this item? Okay. If there's no other comments, I'd take a motion, Councilman Jensen,
I will make the motion to approve resolution 2024-277.
Councilman Horner,
I'll second.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
now we will hold the oath of office. So if Mr. Peterson, Mr. Sukram, Mr. Vaughn, and Councilwoman Ganem, please stand up here at the front. We will face the public and give the oath.
Everyone raise their right hand. Have you repeat after me the oath of office. I state your name.
I, Joey Spellerberg,
Do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Nebraska
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation or for purpose of evasion,
that I will take this obligation freely and without any mental reservation and for purpose of evasion,
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of councilman or mayor
and that I will faithfully and impartially perform the duties of the office of mayor
according to law and to the best of my ability.
according to law and to the best of my ability.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate, nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates for the overthrow of the government of the United States.
And I do further swear that I do not advocate nor am I a member of any political party or organization that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state
By force or violence,
by force or violence,
and that during such time as I am in this position,
and that during such time as I am in this position,
I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization
I will not advocate nor become a member of any political party or organization
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
that advocates the overthrow of the government of the United States or of this state by force or violence.
So help me God.
So help me God. Okay, we'll now move on to the next item, which is item 2, the election of president of city council. Nomination is received from the council and there's no motion necessary to nominate, but then I would ask, are there any nominations for the city council president? Councilman Von Baron.
I'd like to nominate Councilman Sucrum.
Okay. Councilwoman Ganna.
I will second that nomination.
Have an alternative, do I need to wait?
No, is there any other nominate? Right now, we're just taking nominations, so.
I would
Councilman Vaughn.
nominate Mr. Jensen.
We've had 2 nominations, Councilman Sucrum and Councilman Jensen. Are there any other nominations for the council? President. Okay, seeing none at this time, we'll pass out a piece of paper. Can you please write your choice for either Councilman Jensen, Councilman Sucrum, or Council President? And Tyler will come back and pick those up when you're done. Okay, Tyler, you can tally the votes, please.
Carries with Sucrum 6-2.
No other action that is needed on that item. Okay, congratulations, Mr. Sucrum.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Move on to item 3, which is the motion to adopt the current agenda for the December 10th, 2024 regular meeting. I take a motion. Councilman Vaughn.
So moved.
Councilman Sucrum.
I'll second.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sucrum,
Yes.
Von Baron.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 4 is to appoint Angie Olson as the interim city clerk. Before we get into that item, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank our city clerk for nearly 9 years of service, Tyler Ficken. Tyler has accepted a position as a city clerk for the city of Hastings, which it is his hometown and where his family lives. So has that connection there. While we're sad to see him go, we're happy for his next chapter. And so I interact with Tyler almost on a daily or, definitely weekly basis with the amount of work that the clerk does with requirements for the meetings and getting all the documents signed and ready to go and getting our meetings ready to go. There's just a lot of organization that the city clerk does. And so, yeah, Tyler, it will be sad to see you go. And his last day will be on December 13th. And so this is his last city council meeting. So I guess we'll just like to take this opportunity. Let's thank Tyler Ficken for 9 years of service.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, everybody.
So that left, obviously, the why we have the item left where we needed an interim city clerk. And so I'm just very grateful that Angie Olson has decided to fill in as the interim and appreciate her willingness to step up in this role. And we have the job posted and are looking for a clerk as quickly as we can. And so again, this item would be to appoint Angie Olson as the interim city clerk. Councilwoman Deanna.
I move we appoint Angie Olson as interim city clerk.
Councilman Sukram.
I will second.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Deanna,
Yes,
Horner,
Absolutely.
Peterson,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Moving on to public hearings, item 5 is resolution 2024-278, recommending approval of a Class C liquor license application for Valerie Haas doing business as Haas Sports Bar and Grill at 415 South Main. We'll have a report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This item is for Class C liquor license. Reports are available in your supporting documentation. There's an existing establishment with new ownership. They're currently operating with a temporary license. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for staff on this item? Okay. I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any comments from the public on this item? I'll now close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? Councilman Jensen.
With no additional comments, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-278.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
Second.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Deanna,
yes,
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 6 is resolution 2024-279 to approve a conditional use permit for Christine Acuna to operate an in-home childcare facility on property located at 818 West 9th Street, Fremont, Nebraska.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Jan, Planning Director. This is a request for a conditional use permit for an in-home daycare facility. There is a very comprehensive and complete packet of information that was submitted with the application. Probably one of the most complete that I have seen. The proposed applicant operator is very well qualified for this position. There is a need for a home daycare in this area. It's about 2.5 blocks from Linden Elementary School. The landlord for the property recommends approval, as does staff, and Planning Commission recommended approval 6-0. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Thank you. I'll now open the public hearing. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion. Councilwoman Gannon.
I move we approve resolution 2024-279 to approve a conditional use permit for Christine Acuna to operate an in-home childcare facility
Councilman Horner,
I'll second.
Ganem,
yes,
Warner,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Vaughn,
yes.
Von Maren,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes,
Lathrop.
Yes,
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 7 is ordinance 5703 to amend the text of the UDC related to the Wellhead Protection Overlay District 11-405.04 and Chapter 11, Article 5 land uses as they pertain to the Wellhead Protection Overlay District.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council, Jennifer Dam, Planning Director. This is a request to amend the Wellhead Protection District. The developer of the Hills Farm Lake residential development has, excuse me, the property that borders the lake along Hills Farm Road. They have plans to do a commercial and residential development in that area. They have worked very closely with staff. Excuse me, as this area is in the wellhead protection area, we want to make sure that any of the land uses that are developed anywhere in the wellhead protection area protects the city's drinking water. So we have come up with these regulations. It would require all uses in the wellhead protection area, with the exception of single-family residential uses, to be conditional uses, to be annexed into the city, and to be attached to city water and sewer. We don't want septic systems in this area. The specific land uses are limited to those that'll have a low impact in case there is a spill into the groundwater area. And for the areas around parking lots to be buffered with bioswales to collect any potential contaminants. Again, this was a collaborative effort between the developer and city staff and utility staff. I think we've come up with a pretty good solution here. And staff recommends approval. Planning Commission recommended approval 6-0. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Horner,
Is there any cost associated with this for the city in terms of water hookups or anything that would be outside of the normal for other developments?
Not that are outside of the normal, not cost to the city. Certainly there are costs as development occurs to developers to extend water and sewer if it's not already extended to a particular area. But that's common with any development that are on the periphery of the city.
Okay.
any other questions for staff on this? Not seeing any. I'll now open the public hearing. Okay, seeing no comments, I'll close the public hearing. Are there any additional comments from council? Councilmember Horner.
No, Mayor, if there are no additional comments, I was just gonna make a motion that we adopt ordinance 5703 to amend the text of the UDC as stated.
Okay, and again, this would be for first reading. So Councilman Sukram.
I'll second.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
yes,
Lathrop,
yes,
Jensen,
yes,
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Maren.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Go ahead.
An ordinance of the city of Fremont, Nebraska, amending Exhibit B of Ordinance 5427, specifically portions of the UDC, Chapter 11, zoning subdivision and site development, Exhibit B, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability and providing an effective date in first reading.
All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items in the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda by council or staff? Any items from the public to be removed? Okay, seeing no items, I would take a motion to approve the consent agenda. Councilmember Jensen,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Councilman Vaughn,
I will second.
Von Maren,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
yes,
Lathrop,
yes,
Jensen,
Yes,
Sukram.
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Item 26 is resolution 2024-291, approving an amendment to New Star Sourcing and Service LLC's local option economic development loan documents and authorizing the mayor to sign the appropriate transactions.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Angie Olson, Plan Administrator. This item tonight is, New Star Sourcing received LB 840 award, formerly, of $200,000. And, their documents, the plan was to have their premix facility built by the end of December of 2024. They've had some issues timing the vendors. And so we're working with them to extend the deadline. They're confident that the premix facility will be completed by March 31st and that their new hires will be added by May 31st of 2025. And so this item is just to extend the economic development agreement timeline, as well as the promissory notes that go along with that. Jody and I were able to visit New Star about 3 weeks ago, and very impressive facility. They are about 50% complete with the build of the premix plant. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilman Horner?
Thank you, Angie. Can you remind the council, or at least tell us what's that average salary? Because if I remember right from the report that was on the consent agenda, it's 2 jobs created and 14 or 16 retained, something like that.
That sounds right. And I believe the wages average about 31, somewhere around there.
So higher wages.
For that.
Okay.
They had some really good benefits too.
Yeah.
Jensen and Lathrop are on the local option review team. They have a number of good benefits that they offer their employees too.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Vaughn?
So with their delays, you don't get any sense that there's any trepidation or problems brewing beneath the surface, just delays?
No, yeah, just delays. Partially because they've been very transparent with letting us know, and gave us the tour. We can see the progress, very confident. They're very, very pleased to be in Fremont, and we look forward to hearing more from them.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, are there any comments from the public on this item? Seeing no comments, are there any additional comments from council? Councilman Vaughn?
If no other comments, I'd make a motion to approve.
Councilwoman Gannon?
Second,
Jensen,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
yes,
Lathrop.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, moving on to item 27 is resolution 2024-292 to approve the Morningside Point Second Edition subdivision agreement. We'll have staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. This is the request for the Morningside Point Second Subdivision Agreement. The plat was approved last year. We've had 2 readings on the annexation. It would have been on tonight, and then we discovered that when Morningside Point first was annexed, there's about a 16-foot sliver that was not included. The lot 16 at the south end of it was made bigger, but the annexation area wasn't increased in size. So there's a gap. So we'll bring the annexation all the way back through to eliminate that gap. Otherwise, this is a pretty standard subdivision agreement. The developer has agreed on all terms. He's agreed to the annexation. We have no concerns with this moving forward, and staff recommends approval.
Questions for staff on this item? Councilman Horner?
Not so much a question as just a comment on this one. This has been a great addition to this city of Fremont from a community standpoint. I know, we're often after, looking for affordable housing, and sometimes we miss other housing for other, people coming in that might be taking some of these higher paying jobs and so forth. And these are just some very nice houses out there that I think provides a, nice, inventory in that gap of missing housing. And so I just want to make a comment that I'm excited to see that this is continuing on and moving on to phase 2.
Any other comments or questions at this point from the council? Thank you. Any comments from the public on this item? Okay. Any additional comments from council? If there are none, I would take a motion to approve the Morningside Point Second Edition subdivision agreement. Councilman Jensen,
No other comments. I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-292.
Councilwoman Lathrop.
Second.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
yes,
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Sugrum,
Yes.
Von Baron.
Yes.
The motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, item 28 is resolution 2024-298, approving an amendment to the contract for legal services with the law firm Adams and Sullivan, PC LLO. The city attorney on authorizing the mayor to sign the amendment with the firm. I'd just like to start off and say, when I first got as mayor, Adams and Sullivan served as our city attorney. And so I came into their services. And now it's been, 4 years as I've served. And again, I'm pleased tonight to be able to want them as our city attorney moving forward. And again, this is part of that. Really, the thing that stands out to me with their services is number one, they're just very, very high quality attorneys that represent the city at a very high standard. They work extremely hard. They are dedicated to the city and their work. They know our ordinances. They follow up almost immediately with staff and with council and with myself if we ever have any issues. They no doubt look out for what's best in the city of Fremont and the citizens of our community, and definitely have grown over the years in this relationship with the city as our needs have grown. And we've had one instance where they have represented us all the way up to the Nebraska Supreme Court and won. And so they're very good attorneys. And again, I really, would like to see them continue on within the city. This amendment, yes, again, it's an additional raise to keep up with inflation. According to, they're at still 40% or less for Pat and 20% less for Molly and Travis. So they're still giving the city a great discount. And when you see it broken down, even compared to other cities, we are really right in line with that. And so, really, I think they're providing the city a great quality service. So I just would like to open up with that. So Jody, do you have any?
You don't know what from what you've said. They've, as you said, you've served us well in the time that they've spent with us, and city staff has received cost of living adjustments over the same period of time, and as technically in that amendment of staff, the attorney has not had those same increases. So I would wholeheartedly endorse them as well. So take any questions.
Councilman Jensen?
I don't really have any questions. I just want to reiterate what you guys have said. I've been on this council now for 6 years, working with Adams and Sullivan. Never have any problems talking with Travis or Molly or even Pat. And then, but any requests or anything I have is always answered quickly and completely. And I agree. I believe they represent us well, and I think we'd be very happy to keep them.
Councilman Von Baron?
Yeah, I'd just like to get some clarification. It involves not only the city attorney, but a number of positions. In section 2.501 of the Fremont Municipal Code, it refers to statutory offices of the city of Fremont. that are appointed by the mayor, approved by the council, and then just reading it, it said these officers shall hold their office until the end of the mayor's term, and their successors are appointed and qualified. And just for the benefit of those who don't have access to this right now, it not only includes the city attorney, it's the administrative clerk, treasurer, engineer, physician, general manager. So the question is, do not these terms automatically, is this saying terms automatically end at the end of the mayor's term?
I can answer that. Travis Jacob, city attorney. There's the two elements to that. And it's also statutory requirement that every city has to follow. One is during the term, and the next portion is until the successor is appointed and confirmed. And so there's no need to keep reappointing every appointed officer, especially during the same mayor's second term.
Okay, all right, thank you. The only other comment that I had was, and we've addressed this before with other increases, I understand the logic behind it. But a 23% increase is a big bite to swallow for a city budget. I understand it's not gone on for 6 years, but it's one of those things. I know the corporate world that I came from, Cargill was a fairly large corporation. And if we had handed a client an increase of this size after that long, we would have had some very hard questions. Why weren't you doing this, along the way? I mean, on behalf of the firm as well as on behalf of the city. I just struggle with trying to play catch up, basically compensation in arrears all at once.
And I did visit with Mr. Sullivan about that very thing, and again, he is very, very clear in the fact that this was basically from 2019 to now, keeping up with inflation, keeping up with and so that's where that comes from, essentially. It's not anything.
I understand the logic, but still, if all that aside, it still represents a 23% increase to our budget. And frankly, that bothers me to have that big a leap. We've discussed it with utilities increases and other matters on the council. And I'd really like to see us get away from these catch-up clauses.
I think that's, I'm sorry, Jody Sanders, city administrator. I think that's one of the things that they're doing within their contract. By laying out what increases they're expecting in the future. The 23% increase, while it feels abrupt, I agree with you. But you need to consider the fact that those are increases that they went without. It's not that they're making up for it. We didn't have to pay for those smaller increases to get up to the 23% that we're at today.
And I understand that and I appreciate it. And I agree with the advances going forward. The 6% every 2 years is probably reasonable. It's just that when you're trying to get, I understand all the logic. It's just that this is the third or fourth instance of these fairly significant increases that we've had to swallow at one time. I'd just like to see that come to an end. I think we can manage better than that.
Councilwoman Ganem.
And I guess I would affirm what our Mr. Von Baron has said. It was the pushback on the 23% increase all at one time. Was there a reason why you didn't ask for an increase since 2019? Was something prohibiting you for asking some kind of increase? Was that in the previous contract? Because I know that first contract came up in 2019 that you agreed on. So when you agreed on it, was that for these years that you would take no increases or you didn't ask for one? Was there a reason why you didn't ask for an increase?
I can answer that. Councilman Ganem.
Thank you.
Part of it is during that period, there was the COVID issue. So we weren't going to come to council and ask for a raise when everyone else was struggling. That lasted basically into 2021. And then also at the same time, we were building a relationship with the city. And I think right now it's the strongest that it's ever been. And so we just want to keep that relationship and keep going strong and be paid the same now that we were paid back in 2019 when we first got hired. In real dollars.
I guess again, we're doing such a big increase, and you mentioned inflation. Everyone is suffering under inflation. And I don't know other staff members that are gonna get 23% increases that, like you're asking for, to kind of make up for not taking increases, and that doesn't always make sense to me anyway. It seems like it's a big chunk at one time when we're gonna be put under lid bills. People are struggling under inflation already. And when you say you give us a 40% increase, or discount, I appreciate that. But I don't have anything to compare with. I don't have a comparison on what is the average cost. I guess I know what we pay our local person that steps in for us. And I didn't know or have a comparison with other first-class cities. Now I can call and ask, and I have, and had some other additional help with that. But there isn't a level comparison because each city is a little different. I will say we're on the higher end of payments that we make toward legal fees. And may not be an appropriate time, but we have a high percent of legal fees that go toward looking for permits, asking for public records. And it's varied from 15% to 25%. And so if I took an average, it'd probably be about 20% of that total budget is for public record requests. And that's a significant amount right in itself. And sometimes we go over budget, but I get it because you don't know what kind of legal challenges we're going to be facing or what kind of legal issues that you have to stand up for, or going to the state Supreme Court even. So we never know. So sometimes you might be over that budgeted amount. It just seems like 23% is a high increase. And I'll end it at that point.
Councilman Vaughn?
I don't think anybody on this council that saw a 23% increase was very thrilled to see that number. Now we're talking about 2019 to present. The one thing that gave me a bit of solace is that it is tied directly to the CPI or the Consumer Price Index. And so they're in lockstep with that. And that's a measuring index that a lot of public entities utilize, even some private corporations that, we tie inflationary raises or yearly raises to the CPI. And I would like to see this done more piecemeal, a little bit at a time. 23% is a lot, but there is some justification for the reasoning there to me.
Councilman Warner?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, when I first read this, I was kind of like, holy crap. But then you get into it and, you kind of get into it and you go, okay, you start seeing some reasoning. And one thing I'll say is a 6-year go without a raise, I appreciate. I am looking at that from a little bit of a flip side. I'm going, okay, I wasn't paying higher rates for 6 years and now, we're playing catch up and I understand that's an adjustment on the budget and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Paul, Sally and I did, in the interest of just understanding some of this and where we are, we made a number of phone calls. I've got just some quick stats I'm going to share. We called 7 different cities. We got 6 of the responses back. One of them we haven't heard back from yet. We looked at this, and I'm not going to go through everything that we asked, but what it boiled down to is percent of legal fees as a percent of total budget. Okay. We had a high of 0.296%. We had a low of 0.1%. Fremont was at 0.22%. We had another one at 0.24, one at 0.20, one at 0.13, one at okay, and then that's them. If you look at it on an average, the average came in at 0.198% as average of, the average as a percent of budget. We're at 0.22 as a percent of budget. So if you looked at the stats, 4 of those cities that I just mentioned came in above the average. 3 of the cities came in below the average. I don't know what the heck North Platte's doing to come in at 0.1%. They've got a budget larger than Fremont's, and they've got legal expenses that are, about a third of ours. I don't know how they do it. I don't know what they're doing there. Have no idea. We heard a lot of things from folks. We heard from one of them that has decades long relationship with a legal firm that seems to purposefully hold their costs down. I'm not trying to put any pressure on you guys or anything, but if you feel the need, go ahead. But they've got a decades long relationship and they purposely hold their costs down. But they also end up going outside a lot, and that brings their costs back up as a percent. And they're one of the higher ones on here, and they have an in-house attorney, or not an in-house attorney, but a local attorney that's purposely holding their costs down, and still as a percent of their overall budget, they're higher than we are. So, when I first went into it, again, that 23% was what I had in my mind, but after I came out and I thought, okay, this is where we're at, and we don't look, in my mind, we don't look as bad as I thought we were going to look going into it. And I guess my takeaway from this is a little bit less about, by the way, average, or what I found to be about 275 is what I was kind of hearing as a number. So we're at 250. Yay, us. I love it. But it's going to be, it's going to be up to the city. And I suppose the council to some extent on watching the purse strings. We got to make sure that we don't see a 23% increase in our overall expenditures. And I know we can't necessarily control that to a certain extent, but hopefully we're not going to get hit with a lot of unknowns that are going to drive that price up. Last thing I'm going to say is I did ask the 2 cities that I called. I did ask them just off the cuff, hey, where are you at on your public records request? Because ours do seem high. And I was surprised a little bit by that. Neither one of them really track it. One of them said they've gone as much as 4 months without one. I'm not going to name the cities because I don't think that's important. But it does seem like Fremont's are high. And I don't know if we've got a perception problem that we're hiding things that makes people want to dig. I don't know what the deal is there, but if there's something that we can do to fix that, I think we should. Because when you look at that number alone, that would have put us a little bit more in line with the middle. If you would have taken that one item out, that would have put us a little bit more in the middle of the pack than slightly on the high side of the middle. So with that, I think this is something that we're faced with. We need the services. Adams and Sullivan, from everything I can tell, does a heck of a job. Travis, I'll take a minute to toot a horn for you, and I think you've been doing a heck of a job, and I know Joey is pleased, so I think we just move forward with this and go on. But I do want everybody in the public to know that we've looked at this hard, and we have tried to make sure that these expenses are in line, and I'm satisfied that they are.
Is there any member of the council that hasn't spoken at this point that I'll go out for public comment? Okay, we'll have comments from the public.
I'm Larry Marvin from 1945 Morningside Road with Apartment 124, and I'm a watchful citizen. And a year or 2 ago, when I was sitting in one of the meetings, I don't come to all your meetings, but one of them, one citizen said that we have a contract for $440,000 with our attorneys, and then poof, you paid an extra $40,000 without announcing it or properly announcing it or whatever in that person's opinion. So how many of these $40,000 are you paying through that you're not counting? That's because you need to count all the money if you're comparing apples to oranges. If you're paying this extra money, that should go on your percentage. whether it's 2.2% or whatever. Because if you're paying extra and, you're not, because if you have a contract for 440,000 and you're paying this extra, you should be aware of that. That's my comment. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. My name is Pat Sullivan. I'm the senior attorney at Adams and Sullivan. You guys covered a lot of the things that I wanted brought up, so I'll try to make it as short as possible. The 23% increase again is just for CPI adjustment. It doesn't take any merit pay, which typically you'll get a CPI adjustment plus a merit increase. Over the last 6 years, the amount of institutional knowledge that we have becomes a benefit to you from the standpoint that we're not having to go dig through everything else like you would have if you just kept shifting attorneys and everything else. So there's been a lot of development of being able to run on the fly, not spend a lot of energy on things as possible. 23% increase is large. It kind of reminds me when I get people calling me up when the assessor raises their house 30%. And I said, well, when's the last time it was raised? And they said, well, 6 years ago. I said, well, be grateful that you got away with no increases for 6 years. But would you sell your house for the price they raised it at 30%? Well, no, I wouldn't do that. Well, that's kind of what has happened here. We've got a big increase, but you didn't have those increases over the last 4 to 5 years. Public records requests were brought up. Over the last 3 years, there was $215,000 in legal fees over public records requests. While I'm an advocate for the transparency and the right to get those records, I think that there's a tendency for it to be abused. And I also think that sometimes people don't realize the magnitude of what they are requesting on maybe something that is fairly trivial. And what I mean by that is we not only have a duty to be transparent with the public, but we have a duty to protect the interests of the city. We have a duty to protect employees. There's several items that if we release to comply with the public records request, that we would create further liability or reduce our negotiating power with respect to contracts and other items. It seems as of late, and when I say as of late, in the last 3 to 4 months, public records request has dropped considerably. But if people could find a way that they could narrow the field of what they're asking for, because sometimes based on the openness of the question, it's requesting a very large search. And we have no choice but to go through there to see whether there's exceptions that we have to comply with and withhold. So somehow if we could get that done, that would be great. My opinion, we're working very well with your directors, with the city administrator, the mayor. We provide quality and importantly, prompt and efficient manner legal work to you. There's not waiting 10 days to get a call back. It's usually 10 minutes. I think that what we've done, and we try to adjust this problem so you're not faced with it again 4 years from now if we're still around, but 2 years now if we're still around, we adjusted it at a 6% so it would be fixed. Now, with respect to the budget, my understanding is that, and Jody can explain it better than I can, but we have always been within the budget that's there, and with this increase, we will still be within the budget. At the end of the day, whether you're in the budget or out of the budget, we are a needed service, and you're going to have fluctuations in legal services depending on litigation, depending on other issues that come up. It's difficult for you to be as precise on budgeting for legal services as you would say public works or something like that. And sometimes say public works, there are things that maybe you could delay because you have budget constraints. Most of the time, the legal services cannot be delayed. And so that's just the nature of the beast. I'm here to answer any questions. most of it, the issues that you guys have raised, were some of the issues I had to address, so.
Any questions for Mr. Sullivan? Councilman Gamma?
What was the reason why you haven't asked before for some increases?
Yeah, so a couple of it is just mere omission. I realized that the amount of fees that you guys were paying were a lot of fees. The problem that really came to fruition is all of my costs to operate that law firm have gone up tremendously, really in the last 3 to 4 years with the increases in cost. And I'll tell you, I represent Valley Public Schools and their contract went back all the way to 2015 and I didn't increase the price. Most of that is if I have a good working relationship with my clients, I do what I can not to raise my fees. It just got to a point where I kept losing money every year and yeah, it's like the deal. Should you clean out the garage annually? Probably. Well, I let the garage go for about 5 years and it got filled up.
May I
Go
have
ahead.
another question? Okay. You would have known this was coming up, and then the first time I heard about it was in November 18th through our lawyer contacting us with via text, and I wondered why there wasn't more lead time to at least inform us, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't know the average amounts, and at least being able to compare what a going price is. And yes, it helped that certainly Mr. Von Baron and Mr. Horner and I called various cities, and I'm the one that had the city that never did call us back because the person had been on vacation. But why wasn't it sooner to allow us some idea anyway? I guess that's where I felt in a trap a bit, because you're asking at the end of November and we have in our meeting 3 weeks later, 2-3 weeks later.
I had originally brought it up to staff probably in August and presented that amount. In fact, the discussion was, well, because I wanted to do it way back in August. And then the discussion was when the mayor starts his new term, that maybe that would be a better time to bring that to the table. So actually, my numbers stayed the same from August as what they are now, even though the CPI changed. I don't know why that's all I can answer. I brought it up in August, and these numbers were presented in August.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Sullivan while he's here?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Additional comments from the public?
Brad Yerger, 2318 East Fifth Street. Appreciate the discussion that the council has had and the research and homework that some have apparently attempted to do in analyzing the request that's been made. Some of the things that I didn't hear, though, I'd like to point out to you as a former council member and as a taxpaying resident of Fremont. My understanding of the original contract was that it was a one-year contract. And it had provisions in it for there to be modifications potentially annually. Two things could occur. You had to potentially change the lawyers and paralegals that were charging the city, and or you had an opportunity to change the rates being charged annually. It was in the contract. You could do it. Has been acknowledged tonight. The law firm decided not to pursue that. They also didn't pursue changing any names in the original agreement as well, even though I know Mr. Buckley was the original lawyer that was attending our meetings in place of Travis, and he no longer works for the firm, but until today, in the packet material, his name was still on, probably not charging the city, but they didn't amend their contract for that. And they didn't amend the contract with a request to have cost of living increases as well, if those were necessary to them. That's on them. That's not on the city of Fremont. They had that opportunity. It was in their agreement. Also in their agreement is an opportunity for an annual review. I've never heard of any such review being conducted by the mayor or the members of the city council as to the performance of the law firm, and y'all may well be adequately satisfied with their performance. I guess there are a couple of questions in my mind that I would raise relative to the litigations that have gone on in the city of Fremont, and some cost us substantially with regards to one that comes to mind, the Dodge County Humane Society lawsuit that took years for resolution and to terminate the contract that the city council awarded an investigation committee to look into, and we've been reeling from that, and now even this second one that you're discussing tonight. So that wasn't particularly successful right out of the chute. There have been others, but that one comes immediately to mind. It's unfortunate in some respects when you look at a 23% increase that you're having to look back in time, in essence, and pay forward. You can have a cost of living adjustment built into a new contract, and that might be the CPI, and that might be 3% this year. What they're asking for and what you're being requested to give is a makeup for what's gone on since 2019, to build that in and then build upon it even further. And I know that sitting up here before, I've had council members say that they were uncomfortable with binding future councils to actions today. This contract does that. It doesn't require them to come back annually as the old contract did and ask for an increase or an adjustment for CPI, which they could do even under the old contract language. They want to lock you in until 2030. That certainly locks in other councils in the future, automatically under contract terms. I suggest to you that's an inappropriate thing to do. I think it's much better to have them come back annually and ask for an increase. There's been statements made also that they haven't overrun their budget. Well, I was one of those that asked the public records request, and I have information received back from the city that shows that the departmental legal services budget overran, not 2021 did not, but every year thereafter, they have overrun their budget. And one of the requirements of that contract is that they must seek council approval of overruns. It's not that they can't get paid, but they've got to come and ask you for anything in excess of budget. Now, either the tracking documents that I've been provided from the city or the contract is failing, but from the information I received, 4 out of 5 years were overruns. And not insignificant ones. I brought one of these up months ago. It was $35,000. There are others as well. It's not insignificant. And these are requirements of the city attorney to notify the city, not for the city necessarily to reach out and say, you're about to overrun. The lawyers should take track of that. So I raise those concerns because I'm concerned about continuing on with this law firm when you haven't sought even an RFP to see whether or not you could come up with cheaper expense. There's been discussion about having a city attorney on staff like we used to have. They didn't make half, including a paralegal, of what we pay this firm. And you're not even considering that at this time. You're just extending their contract terms beyond to 2030 with, significant initial increases and with increases that are mandated by contract now rather than annual consideration. And I urge you not to make those commitments all the way out to 2030, even if you decide to give a contract adjustment at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, as a member of the, I'll just ask if there's any more public comment at this point on this item.
Gene Schultz, I live at 2306 Gene Drive. I wasn't prepared to say anything tonight, and I couldn't in spite of these, newfangled hearing aids, I couldn't hear, but maybe every third word. I'll be glad when we move into the new location, maybe that'll improve. The only thing I have to say is, I can't remember how long ago it was. But the only thing I remember about Adam Sullivan was that there was a period where they wanted to limit the speech of citizens, either by limiting the public comments, or I don't remember just exactly what it was, but if they're gonna get a big raise out of this, I hope they don't take that as I can do this whatever I want. So, because I hope that idea doesn't come up again, because I think citizens deserve to be heard. A lot of things that you might learn that you didn't get a chance to research yourself. So, but that's just what I wanted to say, so thank you. I guess I figured I had to speak now or forever hold my peace, so that's it.
Barb Bushy, 2037 East First Street. I agree that 23% is a big bite, but on the other hand, think about it, it's been 5 years. That's 4% a year approximately. I do agree with Brad that maybe this should be revisited more frequently. If not at least every year, maybe every 2 years. But like I said, you know, when you look at the 5 years, 4%, and the cost of everything has risen for everybody. I mean, inflation, wages, everything, you know, so that's all I have to say.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, any additional comments or questions from council for Adams and Sullivan? Go ahead, Pat, if you wanted to address some of the concerns that you had.
I can't win for losing. I didn't raise it periodically, and now I'm forecasting forward periodically as to what the increases will be, and now I'm getting criticized for doing that. The reason why I'm doing that is so those things are built in. With that being said, the city can fire their attorneys anytime they want. So you're not binding anybody to anything. We're just saying, as we proceed, if we're still your attorney, this is what we want to be compensated. Another council can come up and say, well, you're not going to be our attorney if that's what your compensation is. And they have full authority to do that. We as attorneys have to yield. We cannot hold somebody to a contract that is a ethical violation that we have in our bar association. So that you're not binding anybody to anything. I am in a sense forecasting forward for you what we are doing. And we're doing that at the risk of locking ourselves in at a lower rate, then things could get much worse than the percentages that we gave. Secondly, we have never, ever tried to limit speech. We have tried to limit the way in which speech is presented. And that's because when you get up in public comment and you have no idea what is being said at public comment, it, in my opinion, is a violation of the Open Meetings Act, because the Open Meetings Act says whatever is on that you're discussing has to be an agenda item and has to be sufficiently descriptive so that the public knows what they're discussing. I developed a system with Bellevue Schools that I've represented almost my entire career, in which if you want to speak on an item that is on the agenda, you put it in writing, says, I want to speak on this item. The chairman of that meeting pulls them up. If it's a public open mic night, they have to give it to us in advance to say, I'm Pat Sullivan and I want to talk about the expenses of Keene Library. It gets on the agenda under public comment. Pat Sullivan wants to talk about the expenses of Keene Library. Now we've sufficiently described it. And even though you guys aren't speaking, a conversation can be with one person listening and the other person never saying a word. I've had that conversation with my 3 girls constantly. So it's still a conversation, even though somebody isn't speaking, and it's being conducted in a public meeting. That should be then disclosed on our agenda so that everybody knows what's going on. The other problem that we have is when you guys sit all there together at those public comments, not many times, but several times, I've heard things that are openly wrong. And the person being accused of that has no ability to speak because we are trying to do what we can to comply with Open Meetings Act by not speaking. It's a poor system. It doesn't create for efficient meetings, and it makes things linger in the public's eye without a response from the city. I have been all for anybody bringing those to it, but let's be upfront and not do a gotcha at a meeting and walk out of the meeting. That's what I've been trying to correct, and I would encourage you forever to, that I'm in this job, to clean up the public comment section.
Amen.
Amen.
Here, here.
Are there any other questions for, or comments from the council? Councilman Horner?
You know, the one thing I want to point out on the, and thank you for pointing out, because I was going to bring it up, that if we don't like the attorney, we're not binding any future council because we can fire the attorney.
Absolutely.
So, and any other council can do that. So, the other thing too is, as I was reading Exhibit B and I'm looking at it, and you sort of alluded to this, we're in 2030 at $275 an hour for Travis. We're basically can hold these guys' feet to the fire at 275 in 2030 for a rate that other attorneys are charging right now. And I've got that from several other sources. I know what I pay for attorney fees, and mine hasn't been $275 an hour, I can tell you that. So I'm looking at this as being, in all honesty, I know the number looks large, but in reality, having 275 for us in another 6 years is not a bad deal. So just want to point that out.
Councilman Jensen?
Yeah, I echo some of that too. We've been here for 6 years with this, and things are getting easier. Now, if we start over again, now they have to relearn everything. I think they've done a good job for us, and I'm certainly in favor of keeping them.
Councilwoman Ganem?
And you have to have good relationships, and it's a mayoral appointment. And it's really key that the administration has excellent relationships with its legal, certainly advice, and our people that represent us. And I think that's important, and they've always responded well to city council members to any time that I have ever called. And that's not my issue, and certainly hope, you know, our mayor wants them to continue. We want them to continue. I just questioned the timing of the requests more than anything else. And I just felt boxed in with that timing of request. And appreciate all the service that you have given over the years here.
Hey, is there any member of the council that hasn't spoken yet that would like to say something or have any other question? Councilwoman Lathrop.
Just kind of an obvious thing too, if we don't have Exhibit B and we have this written down, if we review this yearly, they could go up substantially more. So this is really kind of informative and protecting us in my mind.
Councilman Horner.
All I was going to say is if there are no other questions, I was going to make a motion.
Okay.
Or if there are no other comments, I would make a motion on resolution number 2024-298 that we approve it.
Councilman Jensen.
And I will second that.
Peterson,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Sukram,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes,
Horner,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Now, moving on to item 29 is resolution 2024-299, authorizing the mayor to sign the settlement agreement and universal release with the Dodge County Humane Society and Forever Home Inc. We'll turn it over to legal.
Thank you, Mayor Travis Jacot, City Attorney. Now litigation has gone on since 2021. It started when there was a breakdown in our contract with the Dodge County Humane Society for Animal Control Services. We sent them a notice of termination in February of 21. They responded by filing 2 separate lawsuits. One lawsuit, as the mayor indicated, we had to go to the Nebraska Supreme Court, which we eventually were successful in. And then that allowed us to then focus on this case, which was corresponding at the same time as they sued Forever Homes. And there has been many documents exchanged. There's been a lot of discovery done, and eventually the parties realized this is better suited for mediated settlement. We participated in mediation. That was not successful, but the mediation led to an opening up of communications that eventually allowed us to reach this agreement, which in my mind is a windfall. All the claims will be released by all parties, and the city will be purchasing the DCHS property, about 4.2 acres, for $350,000. That closing is set to take place in December, so we can get this all wrapped up this year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm really excited about this. I think it's a great opportunity for the city, especially to have that property.
Councilman Jensen.
I don't have any questions, just kind of an applause. I'm very happy to see this end. And I look at this is an opportunity for me to rectify a mistake. I've been on council longer than any. I was one that if there was one vote I could change, I would go back and change, and the city would never have sold that property to DCHS. We need to keep hold of this property, and we need to use it for whoever has our animal control services in the future, whether it's Forever Homes or wherever it ends up being. And it will lower the cost of animal control. There's really no reason to charge them very much for rent there, because whatever we charge them, they're going to turn around and charge us back. So that's all I have to say on it. Thank you.
Councilman Horner.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out one thing on this, 2 things actually. One is when, we met about this previously in executive session when we were discussing this, when this was going on. And I know I took it on myself. I went out and looked, and I just want to point out that we're $350 for this property. If we had to go out and buy a property like this on the market, it would be much higher than what we're paying right now. I know that's what the appraised value is, but I've shared you guys my feelings on what appraisals often are. That's a look back in the future. And as a realtor, I'm looking forward at the market and letting the market speak to me. And if I were listing this property, I would list it at a much higher price than it is right now. So, and I think I'd be able to sell it at that, being where it is. So I think that's my first point. My second point is, this goes back to our previous discussion that we just had. And I just want to point out that, Travis, I was at a meeting. I wasn't on the council, but I came to one of the meetings because I wanted to hear all the hubbub. And I recall sitting in the audience and listening to council discussing breaking that contract. And I distinctly remember you cautioning them on that and advising them that this may not be such a good idea. And they did it anyways. And that has resulted in quite a bit of legal costs for the city. And that's on a past council. And that's all I want to point out.
Councilman Von Baron.
Yeah, and I apologize. Some of this may be already in the contract. I just didn't get a chance to read through it. But, given past relationships and the strains that have been there, will there be a walkthrough? Is there a walkthrough of the building before that changes hands?
We'll do an inspection. They wanted it to be supervised, but there will be an inspection period. Part of our due diligence.
Okay, good. And so it'll be returned in basically the condition with the equipment, with everything that was placed.
There's the condition that is in as of today, which there's basically nothing in there. They've gotten all the animals out. They've gotten all the personal property out. The things that remain are some monuments on the property that are memorials to some animals. And for as long as that place is operating as a shelter, I see no problem with those remaining there.
And I did have a person ask me about the monuments and the burials and the sites. The titles is the original, just in case there's a question, is the paperwork in place for the monuments, and is all that in original documentation being handed over to the city? I guess that's the question.
Yes, we are purchasing all the rights that DCHS has in the property, and the personal property, we did list out those monuments. As part of the property that we're purchasing.
Okay. And then Pat's mentioned, tripped one other thought, as you look at the item as we posted it in the agenda. With no mention of amounts or land purchase or whatever, would that just a challenge question, would that pass muster on open meetings?
Yes, there was reasonable advance notice of this item.
Even without,
Sufficiently described to tell the public what was going on.
okay, but even though you'd have to reference the document to find out this, I mean, this is a point of learning for me as much as anything else. So even though we'd have to reference the document, the agenda itself doesn't have to have that detail.
As long as it's sufficiently described to let the public know what's going on, we're good to go.
Okay, so I guess it's all in definition of sufficient.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. I don't have a problem with it the way.
Could I borrow your dictionary? Thank you.
Okay, any comments from the public on this item?
Yes, Larry Marvin from 1945 Morningside Road, apartment 124. And I have kind of three questions, and you probably can't answer them, but the one was the memorials, if it's gonna stay. And the second one is, I thought that the Pound Association, or whatever we call it out there, the Dodge County Humane Society, I thought we had $600,000 saved up when Forever came into existence. And I don't hear any reports that ever, whether they blew it all on attorney fees or whether someone pocketed the money and ran out of town or whatever. And then if you're giving them $350,000 now, who's going to get that? Because if they go out of existence, then that money, in my opinion, should be turned over to another charity. Shouldn't be in someone's pocket. And that's where Snoopy Larry is trying to watch the money, and it's all silent. You know, I don't get any feedback that anybody knows where the money is. And that kind of bothers me, to have intelligent people not following the money. And I think that's where my three is going. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Can I get to stand? Sure. Barb Bushy, 2037 East First. I would like to make sure that the security system that Debbie Durham, I believe, paid for remains in that building. Could that be on the inventory? Because in the past, things have been done with that security system that eliminated some of their liabilities. And I would like to make sure that it is there and intact. And one quick word on something else. Continuity is important in our legal system with our lawyers.
Any other comments from the public?
Red River 2318 East Fifth Street. My favorite topic tonight. It's been a sore spot for years in the city of Fremont. I wanted to comment and follow up to a question that was raised by Councilman Von Baron, and a statement that was made by legal counsel, head legal counsel, Mr. Sullivan, just moments ago, where he said the agenda items need to be full and complete and fully explanatory. And I think Mr. Jaycock said, oh, the resolution as put in the agenda is fully disclosive. I'd like to read that. It says authorizing the mayor to sign a settlement agreement and universal release with Dodge County Humane Society and Forever Home Inc., period. That agenda item doesn't say anything about purchasing the building or the facilities for $350,000. Yes, the underlying agreement in the packet material does. I challenge everyone in this room, including the lawyers, to look at the Attorney General's opinion on what constitutes a full disclosure with regards to the agenda item narrative. You're not supposed to have to go to the packet material, according to the Attorney General, to find out what you're discussing and approving tonight. He said full disclosure. It's not. He said it's adequate, but it's not, because you're not disclosing to the public on the agenda, and that's the only thing they looked at, that you're gonna disperse $350,000 to buy this building. Now, I don't necessarily object to doing this. I'd like some assurance that your intent for buying this building is for animal sheltering and control that the city is responsible for, that you're not gonna doze it down and use it to expand the maintenance building now that you own it. Nowhere in this agreement does it say what your intended use of this building would be. Nor were you given a copy, to my knowledge, of the appraisal of that property for the public to see, and who conducted that appraisal, and who hired them, and whether or not you conducted your own appraisal, and whether the inspection will be done at the date of walkout, so that you know that nothing that was removed from the building damaged anything that you had previously reviewed when you went through the building, if you did so earlier. There are some fairly significant quandaries with regards to those that have been in charge of Dodge County Humane Society. And apparently this agreement says, well, there won't be any disparaging comments by anybody after this agreement. So I assume that means everybody in the city working for city government and DHS can say nothing. The public might be able to, but you all can't discuss this anymore, whether you like what they did or they don't, or whether you like what they did or didn't do to the building. That's troubling, I think, to me, that there's nothing in the agreement that does that. In particular, when it comes to the monument, I'm really interested in some clarification as a member of the public as to, is item 12 intended to give Dodge County Humane Society relief from having to do anything more to identify the party that was responsible for that monument, the remains that are there, and any associated donations that were given at the time? Is that relieving Dodge County Humane Society? Does it relieve the city of any obligations associated with that? Or could you, as the city, now that you own it, doze that monument down because Humane Society said we couldn't contact anybody? That doesn't seem to sit well with me. It wouldn't with the people that donated the monument, have remains there, and may have donated money to the Dodge County Humane Society simultaneously for operations. And so I don't think that that aspect of the contract is nearly sufficient or clear. I would hope that some of you council members would get some clarity on that for purposes of the public and for those that were invested in that monument as well. I appreciate the questions that you did ask tonight. I think the $350,000 price, Mr. Horner's in real estate, he said it's a good buy, 350. What I know is it's $125,000 more than we sold it to them for. And then maybe if we'd have had good lawyering at the time, we would have been able to buy back at the sale price plus renovations. That probably would be far less than $350,000. And that's part of the problem I think that we have going on here at times, is that we don't, as taxpayers, get the real representation that we should get. That is the hard lawyering to make the citizens of Fremont as whole as possible in all of these things. So I encourage you to ask some of those questions. I'd appreciate if you find out about the monument and whether or not that clears everybody, whether you have copies of the appraisal that the public could get access to. And thank you for your time.
Any other comments from the public? Okay, coming back to comments from council. Councilman Jensen.
If there are no further comments, I'll make the motion to approve resolution 2024-299.
Councilwoman Ganem.
I will second.
Horner,
Yes.
Ganem,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
Supram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0, Mayor.
Okay, just before we adjourn, I just would like to say this is the last meeting, we're planning here at the King Memorial Library. I want to thank them for hosting the city council now, the last few months, and for the patience of the council and of the public. I echo the fact that, yes, the new council chambers, hopefully things are going to be loud and clear, and I just appreciate the patience of the public as we've made this work. And so we will not have a meeting, the last meeting of December. So our next meeting then will be January 14th at the city council chambers. So we'll cross our fingers, but I was just up there today and things are progressing well and they're setting the audio video equipment and it's looking great. So we're planning January 14th at city council chambers. So I would take a motion to adjourn. Councilman Jensen.
Motion to adjourn.
Councilman Vaughn.
Second.
Sukram,
Yes.
Von Baron,
Yes.
Vaughn,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Banner,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Jensen,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0.
We are adjourned.
Okay.
Have a good night, everybody. Hopefully we just have that.
We'll do it right
It's all nice.
What will we do from there? That's the council.
Definitely.